I'm gonna break down how I created this atmospheric forest scene in Blender. So first I start blocking out the large shapes, lighting and atmosphere. And once I'm happy, that gives me a very nice starting point to build the rest of the scene on. So in this case, I'll add some mountains into the background and place some trees as well. One into the foreground to give the scene a really nice foreground element and border, and the rest for the forest in the background. At first I tried using a tree generator I've been working on for this, but it's not quite ready yet. So for the time being, I'll just stick with the treesy trees that are really quite nice. But once I have them distributed throughout the scene, I'll just experiment a whole bunch to try to make it look better. Playing with the scale of the trees, the seed of the particle system, and just trying to find something that complements the clearing look that I'm trying to go for. For the time being, I'll just leave it how it is currently and start to work on the ground, because currently it's looking like very bad. So I'll start by adding a grass particle system. Expectedly, that looks pretty terrible. And the reason is that it's lacking any kind of variation. One thing that I've found out is that, especially when creating grassy fields, variation is everything. So you have to add a ton of layers. So I'll have 3 grass types, each in its separate particle system. The reason will get important. Then I'll have a layer of rocks, a layer of mushrooms, of sticks, of shrubs, of dandelions and flowers. And just having a ton of particle systems alone doesn't really help the uniform, non-nature-y look. So the last step you have to do is to use a texture to affect the hair length of each of the particle systems, and then vary the position of that texture for each particle system, so that where one particle system dips down, the other particle system can show through and then give it that really nice varied look. So next I'll start experimenting on the cabin. At first I tried a bunch of different 3D models off of Sketchfab, but I didn't really find anything that was fitting my scene. So I decided to just give modeling it myself a try, which I just did. But once I placed it in the scene, I immediately realized that it doesn't fit the vibe I'm going for. It just looks way too dark and gloomy. So I went back on Sketchfab and continued searching until I found this very nice 3D scan of a cabin, which once I placed it in the scene, adjusted its position so that it appears as the correct size I'm going for, fixed its shaders and adjusted the tree placement. It looked pretty perfect in my opinion. So now I just have to do a few things before the scene is finished. The first one is adding a path by first painting a clearing into the vertex group that controls all the placement of the particle systems, and also painting a texture that I can use to blend in a dirt material where the path is. This doesn't look very realistic, so I would definitely have to spend a bit more time on it, but since the camera is far away, it's fine how it is. The next thing I have to do is to optimize the render time, because I'm using my real nice volumetric clouds that, by the way, you can also pick them up on my Gumroad for just $1. But their disadvantage is that they take a lot of time to render. I'm talking like a lot of time to render. So what I do to combat that is to render out just the clouds and then place them in the background in compositing. The problem with that, however, is that it doesn't move with the camera. So to fix that, I'll just import the image of the clouds into a new scene. Then once I import the camera and scale the cloud so that it always fills the whole view of the camera, and then just render it out using some low EV settings, it has the same motion. And so if I place it in the background, it just sticks like motion controls. Now, the scene's looking pretty good. So what I do is to take a moment to think what else can be improved. Just what little details can I add that are like nice. The first thing that came to mind was a bit of a second focal point, because right now we have the house, but that's not a very balanced image. I was thinking, what can I do with the limited time I have? And the easiest thing I could think of was just this big old log. So I downloaded a 3D scan of a mossy, rotten log and put it in the foreground. Nice thing about it is I have a second focal point, and also it blocks some of the scene that if you see a little too much, you maybe could start to see the seams where it starts to break down. The other thing is, I thought if this is someone's property, there probably is a fence. So I downloaded a fence model from Sketchfab and just placed it around the perimeter of the property. In the final render, you can't really see the fence, but it's there, so I'm happy about that. Then for compositing, I'll first add some temporal animation stabilization, another node group that just removes the flicker from animations, also available on my Gumroad for just $1. Next, I'll add a bit more fog by first mixing in a blurred version of the image into the background, and then also mixing in a foggy color on top of that. And lastly, I'll just add some film emulation with a lot of glare and glow and a bit of grain, just to further elevate that dreamy look. By the way, the film emulation is also available on my Gumroad. Just the nice thing is that it also adds some halation. That's these really nice orange things right here. That's compositing done. So the very last thing is color grading. So first I went ahead and just cut out the house, and then I just increased the brightness of just the house. I did so by increasing the gain and decreasing the lift a bit. So the gain added more brightness, but then I lost contrast, so I had to decrease the lift to combat that, which in my opinion draws the eye to the house a lot more. And then on top of that, I just added some general contrast improvement. And now it's done. So here is the final render.